Hello, welcome back to part 2 of lily making. Today we're going to shape, this is our dried lily petal, and we're going to give it a little more shape with the hair dryer. When it dried, I hung it on the shelf. This was bent here, and it was hung on the shelf, so the shelf's going this way. It's a little too straight, so I'm going to heat it with the hair dryer and bend it a little bit, and it should stay with more curl then. It tends to curl back, but start out with the hair dryer. Maybe. Can't do it. There we go. So I'll just hold that for a second until it cools down. And that should be enough to kind of reshape it. A lot of times if I'm doing a bunch of these, I'll use an egg carton and just stand it in there like that. I did a little Martha Stewart today. I have some that are already colored. This is one that's done, and I'll go through the steps of doing that. And then that way I can put them all together and you can see a finished lily then. So already it's starting to hold its curl more than it had been. So you don't really need that. And these are powdered pastels. Basically they're hard pastels that I've used an X-Acto knife with. So I take in a stick of hard pastel, and then you just grate it into a powder, so you can see just a little bit right there. And then I just store these. These are actually bead storage containers. You can pick this up at simple places, Walmart, any bead supply store would have something like this. It's just a nice way to store them because I can take out my color that I need. I don't have to have the entire thing open and dust flying everywhere. So, excuse me, I have a little bit of an allergy issue right now, if I sound a little funny. So we'll cover this back up. And I use voice pumping that light. Put that back up. And we need, this is kind of a permanent rose color. And let's see. Usually I start with the lightest color. So in this case, take a look at my other ones to remember what I did. In this case, it would be the yellow I started with. So, is it this one or was it that one? I think it's this one. Yeah, maybe it's the light yellow. And just use a nice soft brush. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Makeup brushes work well because they're always nice and puffy. So, let's see. I might have too much pink on. So I start on the back and I have a little bit of yellow coming up through the side. And you start out subtly and then you build it up. You don't want to put too much color on at once. Because you can put more on, but you can't take it off. And I used to spray fixative on top of these so that the color wouldn't come off, but I've not really had an issue with the color coming off without the fixative. And the problem with the fixative is that it tends to make the petals too shiny, so they look very plasticky, and I don't like that look. So I just don't even put fixative on them unless it's jewelry. You know, where someone's going to be wearing it or rubbing your hands over it a lot, I wouldn't probably bother with the fixative or varnish. And when I do use the fixative, I use an Aleene's varnish, which I don't think I have that on hand. I think that's over at the other studio. So, actually I need the yellow again. I'm not making a very good video, but... So yellow on the back side, and then I did yellow up on the top. Usually lilies have a little bit of green down towards the throat, so I'm working it from a white to yellow down into green. And this, there's no right or wrong way with this, it's just more of a personal preference. Add a little more. Whoop, got too much in there. Okay. Let's move on to the green. So, open this one. Nice, beautiful lime green. Okay, so that's going to be down in the throat of the lily. If you're wondering, this brush is actually, when I bought it, it was pink on the tips. There's not that much color of pink stuck in the bristles. It's actually stained pink. So I'm not putting pink on there. It's just the color of the bristle. And this was from the dollar store. It's a nice place to pick up cheap brushes. So those are fairly matched, I think. And then I'll start on the back side. And I'm going to switch brushes now to get this kind of line down through here. I use more of a stiff square brush. So we'll move over to the permanent rose color. Let's move that out of the way so we don't get pink in the green. And can hear my daughter in the background. She's taking a bath, and small children usually do not like baths much. So I'm just using the edge, and hopefully you can see this nicely. Tap off the extra. I don't want too much on there. And I just work my way up. Getting the tip kind of gets a little trickier. Steady my finger. And then on this one I had just a little bit more, kind of take the tip and get a little dot of pink on the tip. Okay, and then I just kind of feathered out that pink so it had kind of a natural blending. It's probably hard to see from your angle or through the camera lens, but it kind of feathers it out a little bit. So, pretty close, and then we'll work down at the bottom. Work that in. I don't know why this is looking a little more pink. Pretty sure that's the same color that I used before. Maybe I have more green on top of it. That's what it is. I think I went in and added more green later. So, work down, and then I worked up the edge a little bit. This little dot you're seeing is actually the wire that's up inside. It's the very tip of the wire I've not quite mastered hiding that, unfortunately. So you just work on it till you're satisfied. And coloring with pastels, you're always going to get a soft color. You're not going to get a deep, rich color. If you need a deep, rich color, you need to use oils, oil paint, and a thinner. Or you can dye your clay with powdered food coloring. Works very well to color clay to get deep, rich colors. Gel food coloring tends to dilute once you get it in the cold porcelain, but the powdered food coloring does work extremely well. So these are pretty well matched. Okay. I'm going to do, let's see how I'm doing with my video. It's not cutting me off or anything, so that's good. We will move on to making anthers. Set these aside. And it's kind of nice because you can actually see the pink coming through from the other side. It's so translucent. I don't know, you probably can't see from the angle. I might be able to fan that down, change my light a little bit. Alright, so we'll move on to anthers and the pistol. These are ones I already made, and you can see that very well. And I used somewhere I have, oh, here it is. Okay, sorry about that. This is just cheap wire. I couldn't tell you if it's aluminum, stainless steel, I have no idea. Just a cheap, let's see, it should tell me the gauge. It's 26 gauge, so that's what I use for my anthers and stamen. And then I cut about, I don't know, what is that, 8 inches? And then I just straighten it out. If you can get wire on a roll, that does tend to be better. When it's on these things, you get kinks. You can see about a kink about every ½ inch. This is nicer. This is just not the correct gauge that I wanted. But you don't get those kinks in it so much. Okay, and we'll move our pastels out of the way because we're done with those. And I need to clean off my board. You know what? I think we'll do anthers and pistol in another one. I'm going to show you guys real quick because this video is getting very long. But I will show you really quick how these will look. So I will stack these one under, one over, so they will line up. So that's half of the lily. And then let's see the other half coming around. It's hard to do this without taping them, but this gives you an idea. And then you can see how they'll kind of splay out. So we will do the anther and pistol video for part 3. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you at part 3.